I'm Donnie Clark. I've been a member of Lance's band since 1960 and loved the man right from the very first start, and we're all going to miss him. I just got a couple of great little stories that I remember when I first started playing with Lance at the Pillar and Post in 1960, 61. I was sort of stubbing for Stu Barnett, and I know it was early June because it was light at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we stuck around after the job, which finished around 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Then we went to Dex's. Dexter Lewis had a restaurant that was open all night. He was a good friend of all the musicians, and we'd go there for clam chowder, and we'd sit and have a great big bowl of clam chowder, and Dexter always left about a half an inch around the bowl for Lance, and I noticed my bowl was full right to the top of clam chowder, but Lance's wasn't. He had about a half inch around, and so Lance, of course, that was for Lance's Beefeaters. So Lance would always pull out the bottle of Beefeaters and top the clam chowder up with the Beefeaters, and that was one good. Then, of course, there was another morning that we left after Pillow and Post to go out to the airport, driving over the Oak Street Bridge. I don't know whether it was the old Cadillac he had or the old Buick, but he fell asleep twice going over the bridge, and I was sitting in the passenger side beside him, and of course drove the car most of the way to the airport. And we played for some dignitary who had come in by plane, and then of course when we came back, everything was fine. But the other good little experience was we were on tour in 1968 after having a great week in Montreal at Expo in '67, and CBC decided to send the band out on tour in BC, and we had Eleanor Collins, Cuddles Johnson, Ruth Durst on banjo, Al Johnson on drums, Jack Fulton and Lance and myself on the horns, and we just had a great time. And when we were in Trail, we were staying at the hotel, which was also this bus stop for the Greyhound, and Lance was loading his tenor sax, which also had his clarinet in it. He was loading it in the morning before we were heading off to the Okanagan. He was putting his tenor on top of the station wagon, which had a rack on it, and Lance thought for sure that he'd put his tenor on top of the station wagon because they got out of town a little ways, and they decided to stop and check. So they pulled over to the side of the road, and of course there's no tenor saxophone on top of the station wagon. So we all went back into Trail, and there apparently had been a Greyhound bus pulled up right beside us as we were parking. So I have a feeling that there's someone out there in the world who has Lance's old tenor and clarinet, and I hope they got as much music out of it as Lance did. Of course, when we got to Penticton, Lance had to borrow another saxophone and another clarinet. That was a cute story, and there were many. I mean, as I said, I played with Lance from 1960, and I was just out to see him last week, and he'll always be really dear to me, as he will be, of course, dear to everyone else, and because he was a great influence on me. Oh, he introduced me to Louis Armstrong. Lance and I were playing at the opening of the Four Seasons Hotel. Lance was playing at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre after the gig at the Four Seasons, which ended about 8 o'clock in the night. Lance said, "Let's go down and catch Louis." We went down to the Queen E, and Hugh Pickett was the impresario who brought Louis in, brought Lance and I in, gave us his seats because the place was sold out. We went backstage with Bob Smith at intermission, met Louis Armstrong. We were all invited up to Louis' hotel room after to do a radio interview with Louis, which we did, and then after which we all went to the cave. It was Bob Smith, Louis Armstrong, Lance and myself, and Louis' helper. And so we went to the cave, and it was a great night. So just one of the thousands of great memories that I'll always have dear to me, and I just wanted to pass on a couple of these that just come quickly to mind. It was a great honor to play with him and to know his family and all his friends and be part of that. Thank you very much.